a successful city is built on a foundation of safety and security. And that's something that I clearly have spent many years trying to accomplish here in our city. I worked with the Tampa Police Department for 31 years before running for this position as mayor. And I'm proud to say that in the city of Tampa over the last couple of decades, we have reduced crime by well over 80%. Violent crime was reduced by the Tampa Police Department by 10% in 2023 and continuing on a downward trajectory in 2024. So we are one of, if not the safest city our size in the nation. But with that said, when you have an incident of violent crime in your neighborhood, I know how that feels. I can empathize with that, and I understand that the statistics and the numbers can just ring hollow when something like that happens in your backyard or in your neighborhood or just in your community in general. And so Chief Bercaw will talk about some of the steps that they take to respond to these issues, but more importantly, to prevent these. And I'd just like to cover a couple of issues that may not directly pertain to you, but we would ask for your assistance in getting this information out. One of the issues, I know that we're focused on specific things that have happened, shootings that have occurred down in Soho specifically, but I want to just sort of bring that out a bit and just talk about the proliferation of firearms in our community and some of the ways that we can all take responsibility in ensuring that those firearms don't end up in the wrong hands. Some of the things I think Chief Bercaw will talk about are auto burglaries. And over 80% or close to 80% of the auto burglaries, they're left unlocked. Close to 30% of the guns that are recovered are reported stolen, recovered by the police department, and they recover about 2,000 guns a year off of our streets. About 30% of those are taken from unlocked cars in the city. And so those are ending up in clearly the wrong hands and sometimes being used in shootings in the city of Tampa. We have one of the things that the president has put forth is to try to stop this gun show loophole. Many of you may not be aware of it. We have background checks on brick and mortar licensed gun dealers in this country, not at gun shows. You can go into a gun show and buy anything you want without a background check. And so those are reasonable steps that are being taken, and our state is fighting against that. And I think the majority of reasonable individuals, gun owners as well, would agree with those types of common sense legislation that we would all like to see. Another survey showed that over 80% of Floridians didn't agree with permitless carry, that individuals that wanted to carry a gun, concealed firearm, would have to apply for that and pass a background check. And that was passed by our state, regardless of what the citizens wanted. So again, just common sense steps that each of you have a voice in those legislative matters, and you also have a voice in ensuring that you, your family members, your neighbors, your coworkers are doing their part to make sure that we don't have these guns out on the street. And I can assure you that we're doing a great deal to ensure that our youth have constructive outlets for their energy, and also that we have programs where today individuals are choosing to end disagreements with gunfire as opposed to words or even physical altercations. And so we're working very hard in our community to ensure that our youth choose the right path as well. So again, thank you all very much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to the chief, and then we're going to hear from, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Bill Carlson now.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Bill Carlson, the City Council member for District 4, which is South Tampa. So I live and am around the community all the time. I'm one of 7 on city council, and my other colleagues care just as much about this, but because of sunshine, we're not all allowed to talk at the same time. When Chief Bercaw called me and woke me up early Sunday morning to talk to me about this, the first thing we discussed is we need to have a neighborhood meeting, and I want to thank him and his staff. There are many staff around here that put this together, and thank you to JCC for offering us this space. But especially thanks to the mayor for coming, because it just shows the seriousness with which she takes this and that we all take this. Saturday night, my 14-year-old had a birthday party at Kodo's, which is at that mall. And my gut instinct, for whatever reason, was to have he and his friends stay inside that night as I was waiting for the parents to pick them up. And when Chief Bercaw called me and woke me up early Sunday morning, the first thought I had was that one of my kids was involved. And so just like many of you live right behind this facility and you take this seriously, I take it very seriously because my kids and their friends were there. In fact, last night, my 15-year-old was at an event right around that area. And so we all need to make sure that we work together to make these things safe. But for all of us, it's very personal, and we want to protect our area. Before I got on council, I was involved with the neighborhoods. I was on the board of the Historic Hyde Park Neighborhood Association, which is right next to South Howard. And we've been dealing with these issues of the evolution of South Howard for 15 or more years. Many of you remember when John Agri came into South Howard, he opened up a bunch of restaurants. Nobody figured at that time that it would turn into a bar district. In fact, tomorrow at council, Chief Bercaw will be talking about crime and what the police are doing to resolve crime. We'll be talking about that in detail. But we'll also be talking about entertainment districts. The neighborhoods and people living in and around South Howard never agreed that this area should be a bar district. They never agreed to have the noise. They never agreed to have loud bars and all this headiness around. Now, I remember going to McDenton's back in the 80s, so some of the bars preceded all this. But nobody ever went to the neighborhood and said, do you want a bar district in your neighborhood? It just evolved over time. You will find out, the mayor oversees the administration of the city. She oversees code enforcement and the police department. But she relies on city council to partner with her on budgets, and we're going to support her 100% on those efforts. Behind us, we also have staff from legal and others that can talk about that. What city council can do besides approving budget is to maybe create more laws. Legal will tell you we're somewhat limited by the state, but also, in Florida and the United States, when somebody is given property rights, we can't just take it away. And many of you are concerned about hours of operation. Legal will tell you some of those liquor licenses come with guarantees that they, by right, can stay open until a certain time. We're going to be doing analyses of all that and see what we can do. The industry has been self-regulating for years. I think what these incidences show is that the neighborhoods need to have more of a voice at the table, and we need to make sure that everyone feels protected. And the neighborhoods also did not agree to call it Soho, which is a bar district. We copied London and we copied New York and 8 or 10 other cities in the U.S. If you look at the history of those places, Soho in London was before it was a bar district, it was a prostitution area. Why do we want to have something like that? Instead, we could just call it South Howard. Would we rename Ybor City after something in London? Instead, we need to make it an authentic area where the neighborhood and bars and restaurants come together. We've got one of the greatest restaurants in the world, Burns, on Howard Avenue. We've got other great establishments, and we should be able to coexist. And so I'm looking for ideas on how to do that. If you don't have a chance to give your idea tonight, you can email me at bill.carlson@tampa.gov, and all the rest of us will be available too. But thanks to all of you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. And thank you to all of you all out here. This actually means a lot that you all are here, because community policing is hearing from the community, and that's what we're here. And that's exactly what happened when I was out there on Monday afternoon and yesterday in East Tampa, is hearing from the community, because we can't effectively police if we don't know and understand the community's concerns. Before I dive into a little bit more, I want to introduce the staff that we have over here. I have Deputy Chief Calvin Johnson, who's over our community outreach, and Deputy Chief Mike Hutner, who's over our criminal investigations. Major Pat Messmer, he's the major over criminal investigations. He handles the homicide squad. That's one of his areas of responsibility. And Captain Whitney McCormick, she is the sector commander for South Tampa. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the precincts in New York. We call sectors precinct. This is Sector B. and she is the commander, and she's over all the control of the officers and the operational deployment in this area. Behind her is Josh Cascio. He is the PIO for our mobility department, and also Andrea Zellman, which is next to him, and she is the city attorney. And I would like to bring your attention over to the screen here, and I can just highlight what we have up here that we're going to rotate through. All right, so how we engage the community, we're going to provide some links, and this will continue to rotate. So if the QR code, you're not able to get access to it right away, feel free anytime through the event. But what we have highlighted up here is our Project Locked and Unloaded. This is a great program where we offer free gun locks out to the public. We've been doing that through all 3 of our patrol districts. And just early this week, we expanded that to include some libraries in the city. So feel free to take a screenshot of that. There's no questions asked. Anybody can come and ask for a gun lock. We'll provide it free at no cost. The next one here is our Police Athletic League. If we get any questions about it, we'll dive into it more. But we've expanded the budget in there. We've added more resources. We've added more police officers there, so we can bring in a larger number of children, especially when school's out, provide productive outlets. And next up here is scheduling a front porch roll call. So the front porch roll call is a great thing to do. You can host the officers at your house or on your block. Not only to have the officers, but I think it's great because you get to meet some of the officers that work your area. We have 3 up here that do work that area. We'll probably introduce them in just a little bit, but it's a great way to do that. And next on here, all right, so register for Business Watch. And again, these will rotate through. You can go to the QR code. If you own a business and you want to be part of our Business Watch program, you can sign up for that. Next one. Okay, this is Project Rec. This is register every camera. If you have a surveillance camera and you want the police department to know that you have it, you can sign up for it. It's completely optional. And if you do that and a crime occurs within the proximity of your home, we will know that a camera is there. We will come to you and ask you if your camera may have covered that and you'd be willing to share it with us. So it's a great way to let us know about your camera. The next one up here is our contact for District 1. If you'd like to know the commanders that work in the District 1 area, their phone numbers, their pictures, and so forth are on here. And again, I will continue to rotate through this on a loop. And again, on the patrol, the same thing for the officers that work on South Howard there. Next. And our D1 community engagement team as well. Again, more contacts for you, emails, phone numbers, and so forth. I think that's it. And then, go back to Tampa Connect. One more back. So this one's going to be important because of the limited time. I'm sure that everybody's not going to have a chance to speak. In this particular outlet, this is a customer service center. If there's anybody on here that didn't get a chance to say anything, if you submit it to here, and it doesn't have to be just for the police department, it can be any department in the city, whether it's police related, code related, mobility or road related, there's choices up there. Submit that, it'll get assigned to that department and a particular individual, and it'll be tracked. So it's a great resource. It's much better than an email that would get lost in the shuffle. And next is the other city departments, just contacts specifically for them. So we'll rotate through that. And before we go to your questions, I just want to talk a little bit about the shooting. So 3 different shootings that we had in South Howard area over the last year and a half are not related in any way and have completely different dynamics to them. In the very first one, which is about a year and a half ago, it was a military guy that had no criminal history that had brought a gun, and the gun came out in a fight. And he was arrested and charged in that situation. In the one that happened about a month ago, in that situation, it was a fight that was erupting in a parking lot. The police officers go to break up the fight. After they're breaking up the fight, then the gunfire erupts. And then the 4 were arrested. Most of them arrested for the fight, and the one that was arrested for the gunfire had no criminal history and didn't live in the city, lived out in the county. And then the one that just recently happened, in that particular case, those actually had a criminal history. That was 2 individual groups that were looking for each other, and we firmly believe that wherever they ended up was going to be a gunfight between those, whether it was somewhere in the county, somewhere in the city, who knows? Wherever they ended up, that was going to happen regardless of police officers being right there. And the fortunate thing is that officers were there. And I'll tell you, we talked about caring and all this, and we do care. And the police officers that are out there, they're out there giving first aid, they're giving CPR, and what's going through their head as they're doing it, one, hoping that they can save their life, and two is, was there any way that we could have prevented this? And that's all going through their head within a matter of seconds. So it impacts us. This is our community. I mean, we live here. I started in South Tampa 30 years ago here, and this is where I spent most of my time. And if you ask any officer, even if they don't live in South Tampa, they probably spend more time in South Tampa than they do in their own home. So being part of the community is very important to us, and finding ways to prevent crimes and solve them. If it happens, then we want to solve it. So preventing crimes is important too. What do we do to try to prevent it from happening in the first place? We realize that the state, for Department of Juvenile Justice and Probation and Parole, don't have the ability to follow up on a lot of their probationers. So we take it upon ourselves to do probation checks on adults and on juveniles to ensure that they're being held accountable for the sanctions imposed by the judge on them. In fact, one of the ones that was shot by gunfire and killed, his last name was Christmas, was on a probation check, and we had actually just done a probation check on that house several weeks before this incident. So we're doing what we can do, but what we're pushing out is we need help. Like, the police can't just stop and detain anybody for no reason. We need reasonable suspicion, and a lot of that comes from citizens reporting suspicious activity to us. It could be something as simple as somebody smoking marijuana on the street. We have a right to stop and detain them and issue them a citation for that. Or it could be something as simple as carrying an open container around on a public street. It could be anything or anywhere. So having communities report suspicious activity gives us the ability to do more with that. So I will, Mayor, hand it back to you. And I think what we'll do is, or Janae, if you want to talk about how we're going to do the process of getting everybody up and answering the questions. Is that you're going to do that? Okay.
Did anything together?
The only thing that I would really like to encourage is each and every one of you to get to know the police officers that work in your area. Our officers, the vast majority of them, have a city-issued cell phone, and their schedules are 4 days on, 4 days off. So it's easy to get to know the officers that work in your area and the supervisors. And we are a safe city because of the relationship between the community and the police. We work as one, not, two entities. And so if you have that relationship and that number, you can call directly, and you don't have to go through communications and, let more minutes tick off the clock before a police officer gets there. So I would just encourage each and every one of you with the front porch roll calls, if you haven't had those, have one of those in your neighborhood or your business or whatever it is, so that you get to know those officers that are working in your community and you can develop those relationships. It really pays off. So we'll open it up to questions now.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Janae Lewis, the Director of Communications with the Tampa Police Department. Thank you all so much for coming out. We know it's very important to hear what you have to say. So at this time, we're going to start forming a line here in the middle. If you're not able or you don't want to walk up, point me out and I'll walk around and I'll bring the mic to you so that you're able to speak. We are asking everyone, if you can, to limit your comments to 2 minutes so that we can hear from as many people as possible, because we know that it's important for you all to be here. In addition, everyone here on the panel will be remaining here afterward to talk with you one-on-one and address any questions or concerns. So with that, we'll start forming the line. And again, if you don't want to stand up, just raise your hand and we'll bring a mic to you. Hi, everybody. That's Mary Bailey here. I have a two-part question. In the immediate focus, I want cameras everywhere. And I know there were cameras from the owners of the old Whaley's Plaza that were broken. But I would like the city to put up surveillance cameras immediately so there's more transparency and accountability. I know I've seen the video from the one that was further up the street that didn't catch it. We need more of them.
I don't think it's appropriate that we just rely on the private business owners to keep their cameras up and running. I've talked to several of them, and apparently that's difficult. But I'd like the city to fund that and do that immediately. That's part one. And the long-term solution is somehow we have to put that genie back in the bottle. There are too many bars open too late. And over the years, I'm sorry, Bill, I love you, but council has approved too much craziness in this area. And we need to figure out, I don't know if it's an emergency order or if it's a new legislation, but that's a real solution. There are too many bars right in our neighborhood open too late. But anyway, short term, can we get cameras everywhere? Medium term, not long term, medium term, can we do something about get some of these bars closed down early?
Yeah, my name's Walt. I live in Seminole Heights, but I keep abreast with everything that's happening in the city of Tampa. I heard a comment that our police chief said in the paper, and it said we can't pull over every car for no good reason. Now, I understand that, but one of the things the state has done, they're not helping us a lot on guns, I agree, but one of the things they've done is they've made laws that make it easier to pull over cars for good reasons. And one of them is sound. And I think everybody here knows the sound of a car that's had its whole exhaust system deleted. And they know for a fact that the louder a neighborhood is, the more volatile it is and the more violent it can be. And those cars, I don't know what anybody's doing to stop them, because since I've been in Tampa 12 years, I don't see a lot of pullovers. I don't know if you can even do them. But legally, you can pull people over for legally, you can pull people over for that. When they delete an exhaust off a car, that's miles beyond what the law is. The law is it's got to be the same as it was when it was stock. Okay? I know you're not going to be able to pull over every car that's changed their exhaust, but you have cars out there now that have totally deleted the exhaust. Okay? You have cars that play a boombox so loud that it shakes your windows when they go by. You're not going to run out of cars to pull over. You're not going to run out of cars to pull over on Howard Boulevard. Your police are going to be busy all night. Okay? And every one of those murders you mentioned, they all have one thing in common. The people brought them here in a car. And the people that do that have a car so loud that their exhaust, you can hear it from a half a mile away, or their boombox shakes your windows, those are volatile people. That's a volatile situation right there. That's an illegal, volatile situation.
Thank you.
And the most you're going to do, okay, number one, you can maybe find guns, and number two, you can make the neighborhood a better place to live.
Yeah, we could.
And I'd really like to see the city. I've actually talked to a captain. He was good enough to get back to me. It said they have some type of summer program coming up where they're going to start doing that and concentrating on that. I don't know if it's true or not, but we could use it in our neighborhood. I know every neighborhood in the city could use it, because a neighborhood that sounds chaotic is going to be chaotic.
Somebody else.
Sort of before you just gave, I apologize to Mike, we're just trying to get the feedback. That's why they were moving it back, but thank you for your comments. And you're right, officers want to pull over cars, they enjoy that, and they especially actually like getting guns out of cars. The mayor said it before, last year we recovered over 2,000 firearms, and actually I ran the numbers in South Howard area this first quarter basically of this year compared to last year. Our traffic stops are up. So the officers are out there. I agree with you, noise. No, the problem with noise is we got to be within 50 feet of that car to get it. But I can assure you that officer's behind the car, especially during those late hours, they're going to be attempting that traffic stop. And hopefully they'll be recovering a gun that doesn't belong in there and preventing a crime from occurring. So anything we can encourage to do it, but the officers like doing that. So any opportunity they get, they will. And
so they can come to Seminole Heights and they can get plenty of stuff from Seminole Heights and get plenty of business.
Thank you for the feedback.
And one thing, The only thing I would add too is that, we get a lot of complaints about that, the loud noise from cars. And think about that, they're mobile when you call. So the officers get out there, they're in someplace else. So if that is in your neighborhood and you know who's driving that car and causing those issues, then you can call in and the officers have a better ability to address it.
I'm going to turn this off so you don't get feedback and you can get a little closer to the mic so we can hear you.
Thank you, Chief. First and foremost, I appreciate you all coming out and taking care of what we call a very big issue in our community. First, Chief, you run first-class department. Your officers are beyond what I've ever seen around the country. And I'm proud to be here in Tampa with your law enforcement people, but they need the tools. These people need the tools. License plate screeners. I mean, just put them on the truck everybody else has around the country. We can stop getting these people who don't have insurance. Things of that nature. The loitering. Every sign we see the little green signs, loitering. When people are congregated at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there have been more than 3 or 4 incidents. I live in South Tampa, and I have come out of my house at 3 o'clock in the morning hearing gunshots. Soho Saloon has a gunshot mark on the side. Your people are great, but they're not obviously they're being stretched. So you need more resources. With regard to the bars, 9 years ago, there was a big problem with this entire noise issue. Back in the day, you had a decibel reading of 55 decibels, which was at night. And for some reason, the bar people came out and contested that. No big deal, right? Nobody used a noise device. No big deal. So now they're going to self-police. So now you have 85, 90 decibels coming out at the street sign. You have, to your point, Councilman, you're right. You can't change property rights, but you can change capacity. You could take the capacity down in these bars. You could end this craziness of music, amplified music after midnight. Now remember, these 4 bars, they pay less than $100,000 in property taxes a year. Okay? You don't get any benefit of the sales tax. So what are we doing? We have all these resources going into this little market, and they're self-regulating. You got $2 million in property taxes coming around the box. And it just seems that we've sat back for the last 9 years and seen this turn into an entertainment zone. And the police officers have been great. They're abused verbally. So you know what? Maybe it's time to start enforcing a zero-tolerance policy. Our officers are a gift. If somebody comes in and gives them a verbal abuse, 1 second more, they need to be protected. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And you all, before you speak, I just wanted to say a few comments about that. You're right. Our officers are equipped with some great technology, but we could always use more. We tried to increase the property taxes to pay for some of those other things, and we weren't able to do that. But I'll tell you, that didn't stop there. We actually got some federal grants, some federal money for 30 additional officers, which we're in the process of filling now. And we got a federal appropriations from Representative Jane Castor for nearly $1 million for some technology that will soon be coming for our officers. So even if it didn't make it in the city budget, we were able to find the funding also. And we also have a request in from the state as well for additional funding. So we are aggressively looking for those additional items for that as well. So I don't know if you all had any other comments.
We just went over the budget. It's budget season again, and so every day I spend 3 or 4 hours going line by line with the departments. And today was the police departments, and we do have the license plate readers, a couple of different systems, but one that the Tampa Police Department is expanding is one that connects them with Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, St. Pete Police, the same with Pinellas, and Pinellas County. And so with those license plates, if someone commits a crime in Hillsborough County, they put that information, that license plate out, and it's covered by those cameras in each of those locations. And so we work very well with on all levels with the other municipalities and the counties, but there is a great deal of funding. I want to say we ended up with about $12 million. Great deal of that is for technology, to allow our officers to work much smarter and much safer and keep our community safe.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, the city council, which just changed a year ago. By the way, I've only been on council 5 years, so some things were decided, a lot of things were decided before that. But this council, since I've been on it, we've supported, I think, all the initiatives that the mayor has proposed regarding the police, because we know first and foremost, we need to be safe. I wanted to point out that we do have Andrea Zellman here, who's the city attorney, and the comments just now were about some legal issues. What I think is, instead of having her jump up every time, maybe we could hear a few comments and then have her address some of the legal issues and possibilities. And yesterday I was on the phone with a couple of her staff members. We had a long conversation about some of the possibilities, and we'll be discussing it again tomorrow. So we're listening to your ideas. And one last thing, the reason why we're cutting people off is because we know there's a long line and we want everybody to be able to speak. Thank you.
I'll turn this off. I'll turn it off to their feedback.
I'm Jean Coleman, and I have the law office right across from McDevin's. I have been there since 1991, when the only bar was Chatterbox down the street. So I have seen a lot of growth, and I have found that the bar owners have worked very well with me. I get a lot of trash and stuff, and I can see on my Google Home all the drunk people walking up and down in my parking lot. But I have found that the bar owners have been good. The police have been fantastic. So I am not going to have a knee-jerk reaction and say we got to start stopping people, we got to arrest people, because I don't think that's appropriate. I think that Soho has worked. It has worked. What I don't like is if these were gangs, why did they come to Soho? If there are more gangs that are coming in, let's go ahead and solve that problem. Have they been pushed out of Ybor City? I mean, why did they all of a sudden pick Jimmy John's? That's what I would like to know, rather than having we're going to start stopping all this, all the stuff that's going on. So that's my little voice of reason here. Let's take a breath and figure out what happened. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I live in the townhouses that are right behind the CVS where the shooting was. I was woken up at 2:45 in the morning to the gunshots. My daughter came running in the room, was terrified. We saw the cops go by. I know we live in a big city and that sometimes there's violence, but when this hit home, I did decide for the first time to reach out to my local elected officials, and I sent a message out to all of the council people, and 2 people did respond. So I just wanted to read what those responses were. I did get one from you, Bill. And it said, "Thanks for your email and so sorry to hear about your experience. There are systemic issues citywide that the council is trying to address. One of them is fixing the past problems with TPD. The mayor is working to fix TPD, but the other solutions will take time. We had at least 12 years of failed solutions. Also, I have been trying for years to turn Soho back into a culinary district called South Howard. That is taking more time than I expected. The city cannot take away rights once they are granted." So I thought
That was from me.
that was from you, yes, which I thought was ineffective at best as a response. It basically provided me no solutions or no hope that there was really anything else to do. It basically said that the TPD had failed and had been failing for 12 years. But I did have some hope whenever Kelly Scharf responded, I'm probably butchering her last name, who is the legislative aide for City Council Member Land Kurtak. And she said, "Thank you for your email. I forwarded it to code enforcement, parking, and TPD, and may take a multi-pronged approach to address late-night parking and loitering. Please feel free to contact us on additional issues." Okay. So what did happen is that following Thursday, there were no cars parked in that parking lot. There was a tow truck sitting there, and all the signage had been replaced. So whatever she did worked. I don't know if it was parking. I don't know if it was code enforcement, but something happened. So I think addressing some of the smaller issues like the loitering, people parking, having places to go outside of the actual bars that have the security seems to have worked, at least in that parking lot. Unfortunately, they did just go one over, but I think there are more solutions.
Right.
Than the police, because I would say the police did have an amazing response, so there's no complaints there.
And that's one of the things too that is paying attention to those small details. And that was one of the first things that the chief and I discussed, that this was, right around 3 a.m. when the bars had closed, and then we have lines over at the pizza place and the Jimmy John's. And so we did check with legal, are they allowed to operate after those hours, and found that in fact they are allowed to operate afterwards, because those are, as we were raised, I mean, my mother always said nothing good happens after midnight, right? And so that's what we find as well. So paying attention to those small details and making those differences, not allowing individuals to park in those particular parking lots, taking those steps, actionable steps towards prevention.
Yeah, I just want to put a couple of my comments in context. When the mayor was police chief and the current chief of staff was the deputy police chief, the violent crime rate was low in Tampa. You can go to the FBI statistics and see that. From 2018 to about 2021, the violent crime rate went up a lot. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But what happened in the last 2 years is that the mayor and chief of staff got back in and started implementing the policies that I presume that they implemented years ago when they were in charge. Part of that was bringing in Chief Bercaw, and he's going to present tomorrow at City Council the numbers and how they've gone down and what he's been doing to address that. And one of the things that's happened is we just approved the reappointment of Chief Bercaw a couple weeks ago to allow consistency throughout. The second thing about the Soho Bar District, I mentioned that before, the neighbors did not pick the name Soho. One of the bar owners, restaurant owners did. Suddenly the name changed. I was on the neighborhood association when that happened, and we were trying to push back against it. The neighbors did not agree that should be a bar district. And half of Howard Avenue is a culinary district. It's where Burns is. The other half of it, or parts of it, are a bar district. And I believe strongly that we need to stop allowing it to be promoted as a bar district. We can't go in as a city and regulate, tell bar owners what to do, but I think we can use market pressures and market forces to make that happen, and neighborhoods in particular can make it happen. And if we do that, it will change the activities that go on in and around Howard Avenue.
Hello, my name's John. I live on South Westland. I've only lived here for 4 years, and so I knew I was buying in a bar district when I bought there, and that part doesn't actually bother me. But while the shootings are horrific, they're the tip of the iceberg. Because I live, and even though I'm on South Westland, my townhouse is in the alley between South Howard and South Westland. And I can go down from people having sex in cars behind Sherwin-Williams, people dealing drugs back there in the alley.
Yep.
Where, two young ladies climbing the fire ladder on top of Tampa Burger Company to try to guide in an Uber because the Uber didn't know where the alley is. My next door neighbor can talk about the young lady that decided to sit down in front of a security camera and pull her tampon out. What happened in the fights that we've seen in front of our homes, in the alley and on South Westland? We need better patrols in the alleys and the surrounding streets. And Chief, and good to see you again. I was talking to you on Monday. I pointed out that when you guys closed Horatio to try to keep traffic funneling up and down Howard, the unintended consequence is the alley between Southwestern and South Howard has turned into a street. And people are driving through there at 30, 40 miles an hour, or they're getting out of the club and they're rocking out in their car, and now that's the avenue that they're jamming their radio on down. So we need more patrols in those areas. Great.
That's supposed to make the way.
Thank you for those comments, and I was glad you mentioned them on Monday because we're trying to fix one problem, not realizing we're creating another. So that's why these meetings are very effective. So thank you.
That's certain.
Hi.
Hello.
Correct.
I am a homeowner for 20 years, right across the street from where all of this is happening. I have also watched the evolution of what has happened in Hyde Park. I am also a teacher in our last 8 days of school, so there is no lesson plan in the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, so bear with me. Our issue locally where we live is, I'm glad you're looking into it. There were many places that were not operating within their permit. We had one resident that held feet to the fire and straightened out one of the places. But kind of opened my eyes to what the different permitting reasons were. I love me some good food. I like me a cocktail drink. What concerns me is what happens when these restaurants close. There is excessive loitering in private paid parking lots. That is where a lot of these things that I am observing are happening. People sitting in cars, as he was just mentioning, sitting in cars, doing things outside of cars, doing things inside of cars, personally peeing on our building. We addressed that on Monday. There was a new level of arrogance that is surprising me. I am a school teacher, so it seems to be a thing, but there is an arrogance level that the last incident that occurred was right across the street from where police officers were standing. That is what concerns me. Signed? Okay. Thank you for everything you did. I appreciate it. Your officers did knock on our doors yesterday, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. And on that note, if you don't know, today is National Police Memorial Day, and we've lost 32 officers in line of duty. We don't want to lose any more, but I'll tell you that our officers are willing to put their lives on the line to keep this community safe, and today's a national day recognizing it.
Hi, I'm Courtney Honing. I live in New Suburb, beautiful. It used to be, so I've lived in New Suburb Beautiful since 2005, and it used to be a joke that when you would drive up North Howard late at night, who's going to stumble from all the drinks and fall in front of your car? That was your biggest worry when you drove up North Howard, right? That was it. Now my biggest worry is if I drive up North Howard and it's late or whatever time it might be now, am I going to get shot? And so my question to you is, what changed? What changed? From what I heard, and I don't know if this is accurate, but what the rumor is that it was two gangs following each other. One followed the other car to Soho. The guys got out and got shot. So my first question to that, and I would love it if you could answer while I'm not here, is what made them go to Soho? Why was that the place they picked to go and actually get out of the car? Because what used to be, and I don't want to use up all my time, but what used to be just college students are now rival gangs. Like, I don't understand what changed. So if you could help me answer that, I would be very great.
Sure. We don't know what's part of our investigation. Obviously, there's people that can't talk now in this particular case, but we do believe wherever they chose to go that this was probably going to happen. And part of the investigation is one of the persons that they were looking for recently just got out of jail. So this was a beef between two groups. Whether they were state certified gangs or not, but they're two neighborhood beefs that you're right, no matter where they go. But it bothers us that they went there, and we ask ourselves the same things. Could they have easily gone to the beach in Clearwater? Who knows, or wherever. But if we ever do find out that reason why, we'll be the first to share it, because that is part of our investigations, determining why they wanted to come to this location.
I know, sorry, I'll be quick. I know a lot of neighbors thought it was because the food places are open, but my husband and I are like, if they're coming from, I think it was said East Tampa or wherever, there's a million places to eat on Kennedy or what have you. So I can't, that's what I don't understand is why they want to come there.
And we looked at that too, and the crowd size wasn't that significant at that time, so it's not like we were analyzing that and trying to determine, are they there for a show over a large group of people? And the crowd size was not what we expected it to be, so it didn't seem like that was the reason. And we do plan on working with those businesses to see if they would voluntarily. We couldn't make them close, but maybe voluntarily. I know the cookie place, Insomnia, they said they would close before 3 o'clock, which we found was great. But working with Jimmy John's and the pizza place is something that we've already started doing.
Hi, my name is Beth Eisenfeld. I live in the area. Many of the items on my list have already been mentioned, but I'll just reinforce that. Yes, okay. My name is Beth Eisenfeld. I live in the area. I want to reinforce a couple of points that people have already brought up. I think we really need to start enforcing loitering laws. I think we've enabled part of this problem by closing South Howard. I can't go north on South Howard most Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights because there's spillover. I think that it makes bigger crowds. Bigger crowds creates more issues, as we all know. So I would encourage you all to reconsider closing that street and keeping people on the sidewalk. And if the sidewalks are too small, then maybe people won't come anymore because there's nowhere to go. Because they don't want to get run over, and I don't want to hit them. And finally, cameras. I happened to be in the neighborhood, needed some paint, went into Sherwin-Williams, and heard from the Sherwin-Williams folks that their cameras weren't working either, which leads me back to one of the first questions that came that I don't believe I heard an answer from any of you, and I would appreciate an answer, is what about the city providing cameras that work, that are monitored in an area where we know we have exacerbating problems, and we know we can't count on the businesses because none of the cameras seem to work at those businesses.
Thank you. And just for logistics, the last person in line, just so we have time to get through everybody, who's the last person in line? So we'll keep you as the last person, because right now we'll already extend past our welcome period. So we'll keep you, and then cameras, very important, you're right. And at some point, you can't have government cameras everywhere. There has to be some type of sweet spot between public and private cameras where that is. I guess it's unique to that community and what the community wants. We were disappointed that there were potentially cameras in the area that were owned that weren't working. Prior to that, we had already realized is we wanted to put cameras in there, and we had added 2 cameras, mobile cameras from the police department there. So working together with the businesses to find out what that sweet spot is and how we could add more cameras and they can add more cameras is something that we're already starting that process. Yeah, no, and the mayor brought up a good point is our real-time crime center, which actually does a great job monitoring those cameras that are out there and directing officers to where they need to go.
Drones work pretty well.
They're 10 baht on Amazon. Thank you guys for coming today. I actually work for a nonprofit here in the building. I commute here from Citrus Park. First off, thank you, all police officers. My dad was a New York City cop, so thank you for what you do. I've lived here for 8 years. And in the time I've lived here, it has grown increasingly worse. Yes, I've been a victim where someone's held a gun to my head in the past, but it's the people. With gangs coming from the New York City area, they'll just pick any random spot. That is something I've seen. And we can't control it. I want Soho to be nice. It's a beautiful area here. But also I see it on the roads. Everyone's agitated. Everyone's overwhelmed. Everyone is, sorry to use the term, pissed off. And I notice with driving as a commuter, there's not enough safety features on the highway. So that, I think, leads to people having arguments, pulling out guns, because you guys have a right to carry, where in New Jersey we don't. So we have verbal, like you said earlier about the kids with their use your right terms. Well, they need to go visit New Jersey and New York and they'll get the right terms. But I think if we can control where there's the exit leads, for example, 39 over here on 275, we get cut off so terribly that it causes fender benders constantly. I've been here 8 years. It was so great for the first few years. Past couple years, that's done terrible. And I have so many people who cut you off, and of course I wouldn't yell, but I've had someone spit in my face, and when I called the police, they didn't do anything about it in Temple Terrace. So for me, it's concerning as someone who's trying to protect my vehicle, my safety. It's really concerning that people are so agitated that they snap. And that's the concern. I think it's the people. And I know it has to do hand in hand with guns, but I really think we have to help people not be so agitated and violent and angry. Thank you.
I think there's a song that says, "Can't we all just get along?" It's true.
My name's Linda Besser, and I live in New Suburb, beautiful. I've been a Tampa resident for over 40 years now, so I've seen a lot of the changes. I do have one solution that hasn't been brought up yet, concerning the gangs. I've noticed around the area, painted on walls and buildings that are dilapidated, even some buildings that are being used, they have painted their gang signs on them, and I see them in South Tampa and in the area. I'm even willing to paint over them with people, but I don't want to do that of my own volition because somebody will think, what's this lady doing? But if you want to, create a group to paint over these signs, because they're pretty prevalent, they're more so now.
Yeah, a lot of those, that's a great point. A lot of those are just individual signatures and not necessarily gang graffiti, but we do have, that goes to the gentleman's comment about the loud noise, anything, the broken windows, any of those small quality of life issues. And so we have a graffiti abatement group that will go out immediately and paint over graffiti wherever it is. And so I don't know if code has, I don't want to put them on the spot, but you can go on to our website, or we'll get the number for you, and you can call and they'll come out and they'll paint over it. So you don't have to break out your paintbrush. But we do appreciate it.
Yeah, it was literally on Parkland Estates marquee about 3 years ago.
Okay, good deal. We'll take care of it.
All right, thank you.
And I'm going to make it easy for anybody that has anything like that to report. You'll see on the scrolling screen the Connect Buys. You can submit the message that way, even a picture of it. And if you prefer not to do that, I'll make it even easier where you don't even have to call our dispatch line. Tip 411, if you text the word Safe Tampa, the tip 411, we can get a text message about where the graffiti is. It'll go in a log, it'll get assigned to someone. And then if you don't want to make a phone call, it's much easier. But of course, if it's ever your question about what you want a police officer out, don't hesitate to call 911.
Annalise Meyer from Parkland Estates. Thank you all for being here so quickly. Sunday morning, I'm not an early riser, but by 10 o'clock, I had 3 phone calls from 3 different restaurant owners. These restaurant owners are in that area and south of Swan, and I met with one of them yesterday. That was Burn Steakhouse. The problem is we think a lot of these people are being overserved. Now, we can't do anything about the kids coming in and drinking in cars, but we think they're being overserved in these places. We think that code enforcement probably hasn't been in some of these places from occupancy levels, and I'd like to hear from code enforcement when the last time you were there. I'd like to see the sheets. We also know that certain people watching the doors. You're going to call your buddy at the next place. It's a very lucrative position to watch those doors. We've never had a problem inside these places, and I trust most of these bar and restaurant owners. I trust their bouncers. They're going to diffuse the situation quickly. But they do call their buddies. They are bringing more people than they should. I'm the former bartender for Outback. I was the first bartender for Outback, one of the first. We had to take a test. You don't overserve. I tricked a lot of people out. Was it popular? It's not popular to check out bouncers. I'd like to see this over-serving stop. I would also like to see all-you-can-drink night for a certain amount. Stop. It's bringing in, we are now the cheap place to drink in Tampa. Ybor City is no longer the cheap place to drink. It is now South Howard. And I know I've got one bar and restaurant owner here tonight. Some of this is directed at you. You make a lot of money with your other establishments. I'd like to see more given back to the community. And at least in the short term, please stop your all-you-can-drink nights. And maybe stop your outdoor amplified DJ nights.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't live in that area. I live south of Swan, and many of you know me from going to city council meetings. I do pick up the phone. I do come to meetings. I've heard from a lot of people, not just these restaurant owners. South Howard looks like a third world country if you drive through there during the day.
Yep.
It is very nasty looking. I would like to see a little more beautification done by. Happy topics coming in. We need to check the food to liquor ratio because I believe there's only 4 actual bars.
Yes.
This is not being checked. A few years ago, I pulled all the police reports. There was a grid change right here. It's very convenient. Do this grid, do that grid. But the stack of reports I got on 2 bars was over, for 1 year period, was over an inch thick. I paid for that. We are upscale, someone mentioned.
You go around, the property taxes are over $1 million. This is true. New people coming in are paying up to $50,000 a year in property taxes. That's a lot of money. And let's check the zoning, let's check what we can do, more property taxes, because a lot of money is being generated in these bars. Give back to the community more. Thank you so very much, and if you'll still have me, I'd like to be on the Crime Watcher program for Permanent Estates.
Absolutely. If you'll stay afterwards, we'll connect you with our Crime Watch.
Very well.
Thank you. And after the last speaker, if Ms. Selman wants to speak, we'll provide her that opportunity.
Madam Mayor, thank you for having this. It's a great opportunity to express some of the ideas of the community, and I applaud you for doing it. With that said, I want to say one thing, that what I've noticed in Tampa, and I had an office at 2124 West Kennedy on the corner of Westland and Kennedy Boulevard. And I saw that that was in 1983, and I continued my law office I left about 3 years ago and from that location. But that whole area has changed rapidly. I had prostitutes sitting on my front steps when I come back from court out of town to greet me and offering their services. But what I want to say too, and I want to get this over, is I've seen the gentrification of all of parts of Tampa. Now, Main Street in West Tampa, which was for a long time a black community, it's going to be gentrified. And these people are leaving the area, they're being dispersed. How do I know this? Because I have clients in St. Petersburg, I have clients in Tampa, they all tell me this: we can't afford the rents. So they're going out. The sense of community must be maintained. It's the community that makes the city. And we're losing that. And fortunately, I see it in Hyde Park. I see people coming in. I've been in Tampa almost 80 years now. So I've seen this city change very rapidly. And it's accelerating very rapidly. That's my point. Thank you.
Just real quickly, I would say that I agree with you. When I first began as a police officer in 1984, I worked Kennedy Boulevard, and the changes have been dramatic. But I agree wholeheartedly with you, and it's one of the main reasons that I ran for this position in the city of Tampa, is that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our city to grow, but we have to ensure that we do it very thoughtfully, very intentionally, and very inclusively. So I thank you for your comments, sir.
Hi. So I live catty corner from Soho Saloon, so I can attest to all kinds of craziness. I've been there for 8 years now. I agree with you, Bill. I think maybe originally what these bars were was a corner bar, a sports bar. It'd be awesome if you just go there and have a drink and watch a Bucks game. Cool. I'm fine with that. I think what's now happened is they have created a nightclub atmosphere. It's no longer the corner bar where somebody plays a guitar and there's some live music on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday. On the weekends, it is now massively loud with DJs, outdoor DJs. I know every year my husband has to call the city because McDenton's will have that outdoor DJ after Gasparilla for up to 3 to 4 months, and we have to call constantly to get that removed because their permit only allows it for during Gasparilla, which I give them a free pass on. But they are, not only it's the noise, the DJs, maybe is it possible to get them out and we go back to a corner bar that, isn't creating this atmosphere? On top of that, I agree with the other lady there, over serving. I can attest to this. I have cameras on my house every single weekend. Public urination in my yard, fist fights in my driveway. We've had people try to climb my 3-story building on a 50-foot metal ladder and go creating. It is becoming like a nightclub, like a mini Ybor. We do not want that. Okay, I have seen in the time that I've moved there less college kids living in the area, and yeah, maybe the gentleman's right. It's a gentrification, but it's happening. They're building 800 and $1 million homes, and people are moving in with young families and small children. This is a residential area. This is not downtown, and these bars should not be acting like nightclubs that then bring this chaos and the garbage and everything that ensues in that. And we just would like to live in a safe, clean environment. I'd like to not have my windows rattle at 2 a.m. I'd like not to wake up because there's kids fighting in my driveway. So again, the shooting is horrific and it's terrible, but this has been all leading up to that happening. And if we can get rid of the nightclub atmosphere, we would get better neighborhood. So thank you.
And just so you know, Captain McCormick and I have already talked, and she's increasing the frequency of patrols a block outside of that area. So we do appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Warrior. I own a private security company here in Tampa, Florida, called Warden Protective Services. And I'm listening here today, and it's pretty obvious what Councilmember Bill Carlson said. It's turned into a hangout, and so I guess the idea, what this whole community has been saying, even to the horse's point, the ability to reduce the decibel level. So, like, one of the things I've seen other cities do is specifically inside the bar, saying after 10 p.m. you can't have this decibel level. It's like still have music, but not this decibel level. It starts bringing down that energy, right? Another thing that could possibly be done is bringing in police aids to help enforce those type of things. Something minor, give out tickets and be able to do that, or police the small alleyways that people aren't able to normally get to because law enforcement is busy with more important calls sometimes. And the last one, and I'll admit this, right? Tribe security, if the city wants to do that. But there's not this conversation about, of course, we're the body camera, and then that third party that can say, hey, I really did see this crime happen with this body camera. And they could be a good witness to help law enforcement and seal the deal. So, thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you. So what I was thinking we'll do is have Ms. Zellman speak, and then every one of us could give closing comments.
So that's the 20 we have.
Hi again, Andrea Zellman, City Attorney, and I wish I had more to say. Councilman Carlson already touched on some of the issues that we face every day, and that is it's a constant. We have people in the neighborhood that are concerned about things, concerned about existing businesses. We have existing businesses and property owners who have rights that we can't interfere with easily. And every time we try to fix one problem, it's almost like playing whack-a-mole. We fix one problem, and then we find another one pop up somewhere else. I don't know whether increased police presence in Ybor, for example, has led to more people hanging out in South Howard that would have otherwise gone to Ybor. But, I suspect that may sometimes happen. Our code does allow establishments that sell alcoholic beverages to be open until 3 a.m. Trying to dial that back now would be quite difficult. I'm sorry? We're looking at things, for instance, right now this is being looked at in Ybor. This is a proposed code amendment to require increased security at parking lots after hours, fencing off of parking lots after business hours, and of course, we already know we'll be sued if and when the city council adopts that. Sometimes we are willing to take that risk because we have to find some way to deal with some of these problems. So, we will continue to look at that. We will continue to work with the city council to try to find solutions that we can do. But we do ask for your patience and understanding that it is difficult sometimes to put the toothpaste back in the tube. In many ways, Tampa has been a victim of its own success. And now we end up having the big city problems that come with being a thriving big city. But again, to the extent we can find solutions within the parameters of the law, we will work with council, we'll work with the mayor, we'll work with the neighborhoods to try to make that happen. So we appreciate all your comments. Question?
I think we'll hit it for.
Bercaw, great question back here.
I can stay afterwards and talk to you if we're trying to.
There's another pocket of area that you need to look after, and it's Davis Island Beach. And it's almost like being over at the Causeway, which is Redneckville. We call it the Redneck Riviera. And we got Davis Island with the Redneck Riviera. Now they just go from there to Ybor to Soho. It's just this big circle. So you ought to look at Davis Island because they've had police officers there and it doesn't seem to do any good. They have these big bonfires. They're smoking, they're drugging, they're everything on Davis Island. So that's going to be your next big hole. I'm just giving you a little heads up there.
Chief, yes, we can talk about,
You got it.
we can discuss Davis Island. We've talked about that, and I know that Captain McCormick is fully aware of that. But again, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out this evening. It really is, in these types of events that we can work together on solutions and also understand the difficulties in some of the steps. If there are zoning regulations, it's difficult to go against those, but we can work with those establishments to ensure that individuals aren't being overserved, that the capacities are being adhered to, the food beverage ratios, those types of things. A lot of that is regulated by the state. But as Chief Bercaw said, we're not, we don't say it's their job. If there's something that needs to be done, then we're going to take care of it if that is possible. So one of the things that I know Councilman Carlson has worked on, and it's come before council before, and I would suggest that you all make your voices heard on that as well, is the noise ordinance that Andrea Zellman's office crafted. And those are actionable ordinances that are tools in the toolbox of our police officers that can address the noise in neighborhoods. A lot of the things that they've done to address the ride shares and making sure that that's less invasive in the neighborhoods. Again, trying to control the traffic in that area. And we've had that same issue in other parts of the city so that you don't have individuals just cruising around. But as we heard from the one gentleman, that caused a problem in the alleyway. So we have to address that now as well. But we have to continue working together, and we have to continue communicating as well. If you have issues or if you have ideas or solutions, let's have those conversations. As I said, the majority of our officers have city-owned cell phones, and so get to know those officers in your neighborhood, and let's ensure that we have a safe community for everyone. So thank you again for coming out this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thanks again to the mayor and chief and all the staff for coming out tonight. Thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. Andrea mentioned, Ms. Zellman mentioned that some of the things her department's working on. She's got a great legal team, and I mentioned I talked to a couple of them yesterday. They're spending a lot of time looking at these issues. They're constantly looking at them. By the way, what happens is that every time we start talking about regulating, we get a bunch of public records requests, and we get threats of lawsuits, or we get lawsuits. And the way you all can help is to go to the media, come to the city council meetings, email us, go to the other neighborhood meetings, and tell us that it's worth protecting the public, that we need to protect the livelihoods of the people in our community. We're not going to take away property rights from anybody who has them, but we need to make sure that everybody understands that we all have to coexist, and a lot of it is peer pressure. And so we appreciate your help on that. Also, if you have specific ideas besides going to these great slides that they have here, you can email me, bill.carlson@tampa.gov. And lastly, I just want to say thank you also to the hardworking men and women of our police department and our fire department. Please watch the videos of Ybor City. If you see the videos of people, the people standing on the streets, you'll see that you hear gunshot, and people are terrified running. And then there's one video, at least several videos, but one video in particular, somebody is down on the ground and their camera is pointed up and the police officers walk right into the line of fire. And it's one of the bravest things that I've ever seen. And if you watch the video from Saturday night, Sunday morning, you'll see the same thing. The video doesn't pan over until the last minute, but gunshots go off and the police are on the spot. But think about it from a human point of view. You know, all those police officers have families, and those police officers don't know what they're going to face, and there have been gunshots, they don't know what's going to be there, and they're bravely walking into that. So every time you see a police officer, please thank them and thank Chief Bercaw and the mayor for supporting them. Thank you.
Just to echo on that. Okay, so just to echo on that, the officers really, truly do genuinely care about their community and keeping their communities safe. And us working together is how we make it even safer. So tonight it was great. So please don't let it end here. See any one of us after the meeting. If you haven't had a chance, come up and get the QR code. The Tampa Connect is a really great way to do it. All our phone numbers are up here as well. Feel free to come up and get those. Anything we can do to continue the conversation, because it can't end here. We have to continue the forward momentum and make Tampa safer together. So thank you all.